Hi everyone, welcome to the show. This is the podcast show for female entrepreneurs in business, and I'm your host, Sharn founder of the Female Entrepreneur Collective. I'm a certified business and mindset coach, and I went from being in my overdraft for over a decade to generating over £1 million in online sales just over a few short years. So this is the podcast for you if you want to learn more about scaling your business, starting your business, you want to learn more about mindset and healing in business and spirituality as well. We'll be here every week delivering those conversations for you. And I just want to say, welcome to the show. Welcome everyone to the Asian Female Entrepreneur Show. Today we have an incredible guest with us, but before we dive in, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone that has been sharing the podcast, loving the podcast, and obviously your support with the podcast. So if you are enjoying our conversations, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can keep growing and serving you. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. So today I have the amazing Meeta Darji with us. Meeta is a certified health coach and EFT tapping practitioner specializing in stress and burnout. Using her unique approach that combines EFT tapping and her extensive training and holistic practices, Meeta transforms the physical and emotional well-being of her clients, empowering them to feel better, happier and healthier and thrive in life. Her one-to-one client base spans the UK, Canada, and the USA. Meeta also works with corporate organizations, offering tools and wellbeing strategies to manage stress and overwhelm in the workplace. And Meeta has also been a previous speaker at some of our events in London and Birmingham. So welcome, Meeta.
Thank you, Sharn. It's lovely to be here. I'm excited.
I'm so excited. So, Meeta, obviously I introduced you there. And can you just share a little bit about your story? Because I feel like I'm always just so blown away by your story. And we were talking about this on WhatsApp. And for anyone that doesn't know, obviously me and Meeta are friends. I've known Meeta for such a long time now. She was also a previous masterminder. She's been a speaker at my events and she's just absolutely incredible. I'm always so inspired by you. So let's just go back to your backstory, because you had an accident, didn't you, that changed your life?
I did, yes. So 10 years ago, I had a car accident that probably changed my life forever. My family and my husband was given the opportunity for us to move abroad. So we were both working in the corporate world. I jumped at the chance to give up my corporate career, and off we went on our little American adventure. Only to find that 4 weeks, I think it was less than 4 weeks, I had a horrible car accident, and I've got 2 daughters who were with me at the time. And I think to just cut that story very short, very lucky to be here, to be sharing that story. But what then happened after that was an entire journey of me trying to deal with PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks, and ultimately it probably led to the transformation that I've experienced in the last 10 years and got me to where I am today.
I love that so much, because if you, I know you really well, and I just wouldn't think that you were, and not that I'm trying to, say that, oh, this person, a certain person with PTSD looks like this, or anxiety looks like this, but you're such a positive person. You're so calm. That's the other thing. You have got this calm demeanor about you, because I know we've been in events together, we're going to go on stage together, and you just are very calm and relaxed and chilled. And I've never heard you very overwhelmed either. I just think you've got this beautiful energy around you. So obviously back then you were going through so many mental health challenges. What really helped you overcome those dark times? Because I can imagine there's probably people listening to this and they're going through maybe a really tough time. And I think when you're in a kind of a mental health battle or in a dark space, it's so hard to see, the light. So what really helped you, do you think? Any tools specifically you would say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot shifted at that point, because I was in a very desperate state and I was willing to try anything. And I did. really. I went down the conventional medicine route, and that really didn't work for me. But I then started meditating. That was a difficult journey because I was one of those that I can't sit still. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I gave it a shot. I started journaling. I shifted my nutrition, started looking after my gut health. So I started this whole holistic well-being lifestyle medicine journey. And it really started to shift things for me and how I felt. The biggest thing for me probably was when I discovered EFT tapping. And I know I've spoken to you about the power of it, but it was probably the one thing that got me back in the car without feeling completely anxious and having those really overwhelming negative thoughts. And I had one session, and I couldn't believe how different I felt after that session, actually. But the biggest test is always, in the moment. So when you get back in the car, get back behind the wheel. And when I did get back behind the wheel after that session, I felt no emotional charge. Now, for anyone that has struggled with any kind of PTSD and those thoughts, we know that the mind-body connection, that you feel it in your body, it's very visceral. I had none of that. I didn't feel triggered. I felt pretty calm. I managed to turn left, which sounds really crazy, but after my car accident, I really wouldn't turn left because that's how I had my accident. So I would turn right and go back on myself. And after the session, when I got in the car, I turned left without even giving it a second thought. So all of those things really helped me. And I guess that then gave me a toolkit which is what I use now as the foundation of my work and how I help others.
I love that so much. And how long was that journey, Meeta, from you feeling like, obviously from the accident to when you started feeling like, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel, I'm shifting?
I think it's an ongoing journey.
That's true.
I'm still on that journey. I would say, it's really hard to give it a time frame. I think each and every day it's celebrating those small wins. I think it's, when you're in that anxious place, sometimes just getting through the day, getting through the hour can feel, like you've won. And I think that's what you need to focus on. When you start shifting your mindset a little bit, you start seeing it starts accumulating. So I don't think, I felt an immediate shift in my energy straight after that tapping session. That was very, very immediate. Obviously with lifestyle practices and things like that and nutrition and mindfulness and meditation, that's much more of a slower burn. But you certainly start feeling the benefits. You become more self-aware, don't you? Let's face it. I think the awareness is the key piece. And once you have that awareness that you are in your head and that you are having these thoughts, but actually the last 5 minutes, I felt quite good and I felt quite present and grounded. I think that's where the journey begins.
And when you started that, had that phase of your life, did you just head first, researching and just kind of putting together the pieces? Because I think sometimes people just don't know where to start, right? When they want to shift or transform.
Yeah, I think podcasts were huge. I spent a lot of time researching. I was also, as I started to feel these shifts, that's when I decided, why doesn't everybody know this? And I trained to become an integrative health coach. So that took me on a complete journey of holistic and functional medicine, which was so interesting. Even now, I really enjoy learning and I'm constantly evolving and learning my knowledge. So yeah, I think I did dive quite deep. Again, it comes from that desperate state, I think. And when you start feeling just a little bit of a shift, you want a little bit more of that. Do you know what I mean?
And I think it's you will have to be in that space that you actually want to help yourself. That's so important because unfortunately, we all know people, that don't actually want to change and they don't want to help themselves. So I think that's also really important as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's having your why and a motivation to do that, and sometimes you need to get to rock bottom to get yourself back up again. Other times it's thinking about the people around you that are also being impacted and you want to change it for them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And in terms of then EFT, for anyone that doesn't know what EFT is, what is EFT?
So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Most people know it as tapping. It's a very strange looking technique. I'm not going to lie or sugarcoat that involves tapping on acupressure points on the face and the body. It's this lovely blend of spirituality meets science, basically. So traditional Chinese medicine and modern psychology. The modern psychology part is the area that I have the most interest in, because when we feel anxious and stressed, our amygdala in our brain is firing off and talking to us, and we start feeling that in our body. So you'll get anxious in your belly, in your head, you might get sweaty, and that's that fire alarm going off. But when we tap on these points and we focus on something, negative or something that's stressing us out, we turn down that arousal. And what that means is that you almost rewire the brain. So the reason I was able to get back in that car without feeling so anxious and panicky was because I'd done the tapping and I'd literally calmed down that arousal of the amygdala and told my brain and my body that I was safe, ultimately. And that's transformational. In that moment, it was transformational for me. But as I then practiced it more and more, then decided that I wanted to train and become a practitioner, you have to work on yourself, right? And I realized just how many things, how often are we in a fear-based state? You could be triggered by somebody or going through grief and loss. You could be just having an argument with someone. It could be a work situation. So it's just such a useful and versatile technique. And it's great because it's so easy. So you can do it. You can do it on your own. If you want to go into sort of more trauma-based work, then you'd obviously work with a practitioner, but it is something that you can practice yourself.
And with EFT, why do you think sometimes we have to tap on the negative statements? Because I think sometimes I've seen two types of EFT. Sometimes it's tapping on positive statements, but sometimes it's really bringing up the negative. And then people are like, oh, but that's like, we're delving into the negative. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do get asked that quite a lot. And my kind of signature method is release, heal, transform. It's like a 3-step method, because we do have to deal with the negative emotions. We do have to deal with the awful stuff that we bury, and, it sits within our subconscious mind. I love affirmations, don't get me wrong, but it's a bit like, if I had to use an analogy, it's a little bit like if you've got a really smelly dustbin in your kitchen, then your kitchen's going to stink. And if you spray air freshener, then it's going to smell lovely. But soon enough, that smell is going to go away and you're going to have to deal with the actual problem and take the bins out. So it's much the same. We have to deal with what's going on, what's the underlying emotional blocks, those unresolved emotions. And it feels difficult and it is hard, and it's all part of the healing process. But I feel that there's so many of us, including myself, we have these negative emotions and we never really say them out loud. We just kind of want to, push them to the side and self-affirm and self-talk and talk our way out of it. But sometimes saying it out loud and acknowledging and accepting how you're feeling is incredibly healing. Even just when I start working with clients, just that first sentence, I love and accept myself, brings tears to people's eyes, because they're like, I've never really said that out loud to myself. So I think you do need to do that work. But then when you have, and it can be quite quick, sometimes it's not hours and hours of tapping. And what I hear from my clients is, I've been in therapy for 6 months and what we've done in one session is incredible. So you can move through those emotions quite quickly without having to re-traumatize yourself, for example. And then you go on to the affirmations, and then you go on to the transform. It is a little bit of a journey, but it's long lasting.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love EFT myself. I'm actually trained in it myself.
I know.
I never talk about it, but I definitely use it. And I think the thing I love about EFT is, like, I always feel a release from it. I normally cry when I do EFT.
Yes.
And sometimes that can be a little bit scary, but I think it's so powerful. And I think we are living in a world where we aren't even aware of our constant negative emotions and thoughts on a daily basis.
Yes.
And I think they're just installed in us, just like they would just be, something very normal. And I think people just don't even realize when they're being negative towards themselves because it's just this kind of, default programming. If you found value in this episode, then please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to have incredible conversations every week with like-minded women in business and CEOs, and your support honestly means the world to me. So the more you can share this and subscribe to our channel, the more impact we can have for all of us together, and together we rise. So how would you say, in terms of if someone's trying to, maybe they don't even realize and have the awareness that they're actually stuck, or they're actually quite negative, or they're not positive, or they're being impacted by negative emotions. How can someone, if someone's listening to this and be I'm not sure how to go about that, what would you say they can do maybe to get awareness around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think journaling is a really good place to start. It's really helped me in a big way. It's something that I still do on a daily basis. But I think it's sitting down, with yourself and a piece of paper and some time. And even that can feel oh my God,
so luxurious.
Yeah. Yeah, and scary, I think the first time I journaled, I wrote, I don't really know what I'm supposed to write, but this is supposed to be quite transformational. And that's how my journey started. So I think it's sitting down maybe with a piece of paper, or just having that time to yourself to think, what are the thoughts that I think quite a lot? And how do I talk to myself? How would I talk to a friend? And how am I talking to myself? And what's those negative thoughts that are coming up? And it's really interesting because that brings up a whole host of limiting beliefs, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. I'm not smart enough or pretty enough, or it all comes up. And it's something, actually, I run retreats, and it's actually one of the things that I do get people to do. Free writing, journaling can be a scary word.
All my clients are always so scared of journaling.
I know. I think even just the word has connotations with it. But, so we call it free writing.
Or writing therapy.
Yeah. Or, just prompts to get you thinking. But it's always so powerful, especially with the people that have never done it before, because they look at that and they think, I don't know what I'm going to write. And they're the ones that write 2 pages worth. And suddenly you start connecting dots. I think that's the thing, because you get out of your head. So that's probably a really good place to start, I would say.
I love that so much. And I think there's obviously research. I think the New York Times did a research a couple of years ago where they were journaling can improve mental health. It's got so many benefits, but people get so scared of it. And I also think with journaling as well, it can just be such a magical process. And I think also it connects with your subconscious mind.
100%.
Because your subconscious mind obviously relates to symbols and visuals. Yes. And so many people don't realize, but the subconscious mind is running 90% of our reality.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Sharn. I think, even with the journaling, don't overthink it. You don't have to go deep into your blocks and your beliefs. Sometimes I just write my things to-do list for the next day, and that just helps me have a good night's sleep, and I can get things out of my head. Sometimes it's a gratitude list. Sometimes it's a, why did she talk to me like that rant, and just getting it out. And other times it's oh my God, my business strategy, I've got this idea and this idea. So I don't think we need to overthink it. It's just a pen and a piece of paper. But the power of it, like you say, is probably, it's a practice that's available to all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love journaling. I'm such a big journaler. I love it so much. And I know on your retreats, Meeta, you obviously do a lot of work around self-worth and being worthy and being enough. Why do you think so many of us, I swear, it's all women, not so many, all of us, struggle with self-worth and not feeling enough?
Yeah, I mean,
such a big question.
That's another podcast in itself. That should be a part 2. Why do we have this belief? First of all, I do agree that 99% of my clients have this underlying, I'm not good enough. Where does it come from? Well, these beliefs, sadly, are ingrained in us from our childhood, what we've experienced, what we've heard, what we've seen. And it can only take a small comment. It doesn't, when we say the word trauma, and I help people work through trauma is again, such a big word. I don't believe in, big T trauma and little t trauma. We've all got some kind of trauma. And that could be someone saying something to you and you taking that in a way when you were very, very young and creating a belief with it. I shouldn't have said that, or it's all about me, because when we're young and we're so, in those childhood years, we are very impressionable, but we're just looking for validation. We're just looking for that love, to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved. And we're surrounded by parents and adults that are trying to figure out the world themselves,
Yes.
I say that as a parent now, So I think, these beliefs and these stories are embedded from a very, very young age. And of course, our minds, we have this negative bias. And so we go looking for evidence. And as we grow older, that just gets louder and louder and louder as we have that evidence. And I think for women, for Asian women in particular, I mean, there's so many cultural nuances and so much pressure that is put on us as Asian women to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to behave a certain way. And it never feels like it's ever going to be enough. It's just this unsaid pressure that I think we all feel.
Yeah, I just in awe of what you were saying there, really. I just think that is so true, actually, because I just do think, like, even with the world that we're living in, with social media, because now we can visually see other people,
yes.
Like when 20, 30 years ago, when our parents were just like living their lives, like they weren't comparing themselves to others. But now we have like YouTube, we have the news 24/7,
yes.
we have online news,
yes.
we have offline news, we have social media. It's just a lot. And I think it's so easy to feel like you're not enough.
Yeah.
And what I've also found is that, like, as both of us, we work with really ambitious women, and they even struggle with it as well. Like, if you're really ambitious, I think that you have got this, many times overarching fear, so to speak, of not being enough.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think the social media, this love-hate relationship that we all have with it, comparisonitis, just looking at something and someone, half-term holidays, for example, everyone's like in the Maldives or Greece or Corfu, and you're like, great, I'm sat in sunny Warwickshire. It's everywhere, isn't it? And I think you have to be really, really careful about what you're consuming, setting those boundaries for yourself. But again, it comes back to that awareness, how much are you getting carried away? I see it with teenagers, they are so absorbed in these phones and the things that they see on social media and the likes. And again, we're trying to navigate this at our age, trying to run a business. It's very, very difficult. But I think going back to like the affirmations and the retreat, one of the things that women find really hard to say is I am enough. Those 3 words are like the most challenging words for almost everybody that walks through my door. And with the affirmations in particular, one of the hacks, particularly with the tapping and even without the tapping, is I choose rather than I am. Because that I am feels so triggering, because your brain ultimately will come back to you and say, no, you're not. You're absolutely not. But if we say in this moment, I choose to feel enough, then suddenly that feels okay. And that feels like doable for the brain.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So what can women do, Meeta? Like, maybe just a couple of things that they can start to feel enough. Because we are enough. I do believe we're enough, because I think that we were born, and there's, like, always use this example, there's a 1 in trillion chance of us being born. So therefore we are enough, because we were the chosen ones to be here on planet Earth. But so many people don't believe that, and they don't know that they're enough. So is there anything that women can do to start to feel like they're enough?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole healing journey in itself, isn't it? But I think it's looking, and it's this whole self-awareness, self-love piece, which can feel quite emotional, but it's looking at yourself, looking at its gratitude for who you are, what you've achieved, where you are in life, and just reflecting on those wins, I think, reflecting on challenges that you've overcome, because we've all overcome challenges, and taking that one by one. Today I feel enough because, for example, and how would you finish that question?
Let's talk about you coming back to the UK. So when was that, when you came back from America?
So that was 2020.
Oh, yes. So let's talk about your wellness business, because you run an incredible, successful wellness business, and you do work for corporates as well.
I do.
You do retreats. You just do amazing, amazing work with clients as well. So obviously 2020 was the year of the pandemic.
Yes.
So how did you get the business off the ground when you came back?
Yeah, it was a real challenge. Moving back in COVID, I moved to a brand new area. So I moved to Warwickshire, didn't know anybody in Warwickshire. Obviously, we were still in lockdown. We were in lockdown, then we weren't. And all of that ping pong was going on. And it was really difficult because I felt like I had to start from scratch. I didn't know anyone. The imposter syndrome kicked in. And I think I just started by, the biggest thing for me always is community, and finding that community. And having lived in 3 different countries, always moving to a new place, it's finding your people and your tribe, people that you can connect with, that are like-minded. And that's what I just looked out for. And thankfully, as a mum and having children at school, that can be a little bit easier. So I did find a couple of mums at school that were also in wellness, and started my little tribe then. And that began as a little network. Those 3 became 6, and then the 6 became 8. And I then set up this wellness network in my area, which is now 178 of us.
That's amazing.
And it all starts with just putting yourself out there, I think, is the hardest thing to do. But just talking to people, and talking to people that are doing similar things to you. That, I once heard this brilliant quote in a podcast that was, "Go where people grow." So that's really, might not be at the local pub, but it might be at the yoga studio, for example, or where you go and play sports, for example. So yeah, I think it's finding and talking to people, telling them what you do, which is what got me started.
And is that how you landed your kind of first few clients in the UK?
Yeah, I think, we put so much pressure on ourselves of having a network, or where are my next clients coming from? We've already got a network. If you look at your phone book in your phone, a lot of people. You've got a lot of family and friends, and they all work, especially if you're thinking about the corporates. They're all working. Everybody's working somewhere. Everybody knows somebody that needs some support in something. And that's really, I think, how it first began for me, was my network. I had a network from my old PR world as well, but also my friends and family that saw what I did, and that created a few clients, and that momentum began from there.
And do you think now, you obviously are really so active on Instagram. Do you think a lot, I love your business model, because a lot of it does come from offline.
Yes.
So do you think Instagram has played a part, or do you value more offline marketing, would you say?
Yeah, I love Instagram. I wouldn't say a bulk of my work comes from Instagram. It used to. I think it goes through different phases. There was a lot of messages being dropped in DMs. There was a lot of work being done in DMs a while back. I feel like now, as we've transitioned from COVID and people are enjoying more face-to-face, and there's more networking face-to-face, it's more offline and more kind of face-to-face driven. Yeah, I think I really value those one-to-one conversations, or those networking meetings where you can really talk to somebody, talk to a human. I know that sounds crazy, but I think in a post-COVID world where there's a little bit of fatigue sometimes with Instagram, or certainly for me anyway.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I always encourage my clients to look outside of Instagram. I think having a holistic marketing strategy is so important. Obviously, Instagram is incredible. It's a free tool. The reach is amazing. But I think networking, but the right networking,
Yes.
that's the thing that I love about you. You're never in any kind of cliques. You're not going to the usual things. You just do your own thing. And how, when people are looking at networking events, how do they know, oh, this is the right one for me? Or do you think it's just a case of just testing and just seeing what the vibe is and just going to lots and kind of working it out that way?
Yeah, I think, again, with networking, we can really work ourselves up about that, can't we? And think, oh my God, what's it going to be like? I can't put myself out there. That's the first hurdle I know for a lot of people. And then I think it's looking at those groups. Some of them, they're all so different. Some of them are there and there's a 60-second pitch and they've got a timer and it's and it just doesn't connect. And I think it's finding a few and going around and just seeing which one resonates with you, because there will be a couple that you think, I really liked that. I really enjoyed the vibe. It was very relaxed. Certainly with my networking group, that is exactly what it's all about. It's all about making everybody feel welcome, not having those buzzers where there's 60 seconds. It's all about the collaboration, the conversation, and an opportunity to just share your story. I think don't go in with I need to get sales from this. That's a very corporate way of looking at it. You're just going to have conversations with people. And if those conversations feel a little bit stale, then that's probably not the right environment for you.
Yeah. And I think there's always this misconception as well, isn't there, that networking is quite a masculine thing and women can't succeed from networking. But obviously your experience is completely different, isn't it? That there's obviously business being done in a soulful, aligned way, but also you can get business from networking events, right?
Yeah. I mean, women are fantastic networkers. And the reason I say that is because we all have a story to tell with what we're doing, with our businesses, with our, work that we do. And we're great at storytelling and we're great at listening to each other's stories. And that just creates this human and emotional connection, which is, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm here to sell you XYZ product. It's just that feels very male and masculine and corporate. Whereas I think women just get it so right, because then it sparks another conversation. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a conversation with another human, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, with women, especially when I'm coaching women in say the mastermind or one-to-one, they're like, oh, what should be my pitch? What should be my elevator pitch? And I think it's important to have all of those things. But I think sometimes, I think I said to one of my masterminders a few months ago, I think sometimes it's just listening. And, it's if you're at a party, you wouldn't just kind of barge into a party and just talk about yourself and leave. It's more about having those conversations and just developing relationships with people. Because if I think about networking for me, it's never really been about, I obviously host networking events for my membership, but it's, for me, I haven't used networking as a massive strategy to get clients, so to speak, because I'm obviously quite good at online marketing. But I think for me, networking has been very good in terms of speakers from my events or podcast guests. There's different ways you can weave it into your business as well, make it work for you.
Yeah, 100%.
My business, the Female Entrepreneur Collective, is so much more than a business. It's a community of like-minded women just like you. And when I started my business all those years ago, I really struggled unnecessarily in the beginning stages of my business. I struggled with my mindset, I struggled with content and just self-belief. That's when I decided to certify as a business and mindset coach. And now we offer the most incredible mastermind for ambitious female entrepreneurs just like you. This is the perfect blend of mindset meets marketing meets content to help you step into your potential and reach your next level in business. So doors are actually open to my Rebirth Mastermind right now, and we have already got incredible women enrolled in it just like you. We would absolutely love to have you. You can find more information in the show notes, or you can just drop me a DM on Instagram. I'm on Asian_female_entrepreneur. We'd love to support you in your business and mindset that journey and let's rise together.
I think the listening element is a really good point. I think it's really important to perhaps listen, and can you offer something to that person? You know, are they asking for support in something, or can you make a connection with them? They will remember you for that. If someone tells you that they work within the construction industry, for example, and they're looking for support in something and you happen to know someone, I think making that connection can be quite beneficial. I've lost my train of thought. You're laughing at something.
No, I'm laughing as a Cheshire cat because I just remembered something. We talked about this last year. So what I want to say about Meeta is, like, you've obviously been at my events. You've been a speaker. And obviously you were in the mastermind a couple of years ago. And I just loved the way, I was referring you and Cam, who's also been on the podcast. She's incredible. Like, the way you've built a relationship with me is like, it hasn't been like this thing like, oh, can I come and speak like on your stage, you know? And obviously we host like the biggest events for Asian female entrepreneurs. It's been such an organic like friendship, and it's always been from a place of like, oh, but if you ever need anything around this, like, and it's not been this like pushy thing. It's been, but you've always led from a place of like friendship and just like kindness. Like, obviously you helped me with my health journey a couple of years ago when I was literally dying. And I think that's so important. And the reason why I was just grinning like a Cheshire cat was because I remember last year and I was doing my big event in London, and the kind of so I'd announce a speaker and might be, I don't know, like Noreen Khan or Shivani Powell, whoever amazing was coming, yourself. And then people would literally DM me. I think I shared some screenshots with you.
Yes.
It would be like, hi, can I come and speak at your event? I can talk about this, this and this. And I was like, nothing infuriates me more, because I'm like, oh my God, like I would never do that. I would never DM someone like that. You know, I always teach my clients like relationship building is so important in business. Like, you know, being there for other people, building relationships, offering something that could help the other person, not just thinking about yourself.
Yes.
And the thing that I got really infuriated with is that, like, if I was ever, so for example, I was thinking about someone today that I would love to be connected with. I was like, you know what? I'd love to be in her energy, be connected. I'd love to have her on the podcast. So I'm not thinking, okay, let me just like cold pitch to her. I was actually thinking, okay, maybe I could get to like one of her events, obviously pay to be at her events, maybe start a connection that way. But what I find with some people, and I'm now going off on a tangent, but it's just like they just want to take, especially when, like, you know, I get DMs for my podcast as well. Hi, I saw you've done a podcast. I can speak about this, and this. Like, can you book me in? And I'm like, oh my God, like, that's just not the way to do it.
Yes. And I think you have to foster those relationships. You know, when you meet someone for the first time, is there something that you can offer them? Listen to what they're saying, listen to maybe what their dog's name is or where they went on holiday, then connect with them on LinkedIn and Instagram, and perhaps, you know, offer a piece of information, make a connection with them, ask them how the holiday in Dubai was. That's how you foster those relationships. And I think for me, I've obviously got a PR background as well previously. So I've done this with journalists.
It's not hard to be nice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It isn't. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves with the word networking and what it should be and what you should get out of it. And sometimes that's a much slower burn, you know?
It's so true. And even if I think about like my event last year, which had such incredible speakers, you know, some of them were like, you know, I had to outreach to them, but some of them were just kind of people that like we had Chris from Maya Dahlia Cakes, and that's just someone that, like, you know, I don't speak to all the time, but I just adore her. But it was like I did a blog with her, like a blog on her when I used to have a wedding planning blog, like back in 2014 before I got married, and it was just keeping in touch, just, you know, now and again, high and by, we did some weddings together, and then like the opportunity comes, and I was like, oh, because like the last few times I asked her, she was pregnant, and she was like, actually, this time I'm actually free, I'll come. But then she introduced me to like someone else. So she introduced me to Marnie, and then me and Marnie came onto the podcast. Obviously, Krish came on. So it's like that snowball effect.
Yes.
And I think it's just sometimes just being nice to people and just being, you know, courteous. I think that goes a long way. And I think just always thinking, oh, what can I get out of this person? That's just not the way to do business. But moving on, because I could laugh about that all the time. What does your kind of mindset routine look like, Meeta, on a daily basis? Because obviously you're a mother, you're balancing motherhood. Obviously, Raj, your husband, he's also gone self-employed.
Yes.
And you're doing like retreat. Sometimes you're like, oh, I've got like 2 retreats this week and 3 speaking events. I'm like, what? Like, I'm just here like in my Oxford house, like with my 1 event, just dying. And like you're always up really early, and I just feel like you're really organized. So like, what does your personal routine look like, and how are you blending it all?
Yeah. So I think I have to practice what I preach. First of all, I'm not perfect by any means. Mindset for me is 100% important. I think, like you said, you know, the subconscious mind is absolutely running the show. So you really have to work on your mindset. You could have the best business strategy in the world, but if you're feeling the imposter syndrome, or you're stuck with money blocks, or, you know, you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think for me, I have a morning routine where it's a meditation routine, some breathing, some tapping, and I just kind of check in with myself. But I do need that time for myself in the morning before the world starts and everything, the chaos of the day begins. I think it's really important to carve out that time. And it doesn't have to be 2 hours of the day. You know, for me, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it can be 5, sometimes it's 45. But having that time for me is really, really important. And even throughout the day, I think nutrition, you know, I take a 360 approach to well-being, to mental resilience, which is really important to me after the car accident and brain health. So I do need to eat. I'm not one of these girls that can fast until, you know, 12, 1 o'clock. My brain just doesn't operate in that way and can't operate. So I do need to nourish myself. So breakfast is a really important meal in our house. So yeah, that's kind of my morning routine. Throughout the day, I try to find moments to reset, and that will look like maybe a little bit of breath work, just closing my eyes, walking in nature. And then in the evening, there's a little bit of a wind down routine. So the bookends of the day are quite important. I think the end of the day is very much about that reflection piece, doing my journaling, having some time with just me. You know, I come across on social media as being out there and doing lots of things, but I do need my time to recharge. You know, that's when I do become a little bit of an introvert, or because if you're giving so much all day, every day, I think even my family know that if I'm in my room, in my bed with a journal, then I just need that time to myself.
And also, do you do in the morning, like, is it meditation and journaling that you do mainly?
Meditation mainly, meditation and tapping.
Love that. And do you have your own meditation that you've created?
So it's been a journey with meditation for me. I started off with an app that I used to listen to in bed, and it's now evolved. So now it's my own meditation practice. I will do a little bit of breath work to begin with, and then I'll use a mantra-based meditation, and then I will end with a visualization on me and my goals, maybe my health goals, my business goals, family goals. So a little bit of visualization, manifestation, call it what you want, and then end in gratitude.
I love that. And is that something that you've created yourself in your voice?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love that. And again, that's so great for the subconscious mind, isn't it?
Yes.
Hearing it in your own voice and reinforcing.
Yes. And I would say that that's a really powerful tip, actually, is if you've got those affirmations, even just recording a few of them on your phone, in your voice notes, and just listening to that every morning is so, so powerful for your subconscious mind.
I love that so much. And what about motherhood? How do you blend it all?
Motherhood, yes. A mum to 2 teenagers. It's a journey, I think. It's, I think parenting children now, and having been a child myself, I'm this whole era of conscious parenting, which is very trendy at the moment. But I think we're all trying to do it in that we're really thinking about the way that we were parented. And, no disrespect to my parents or anything, but how I would do things differently, or maybe the things that I might have wanted. So it's a really interesting journey. There's no manual, sadly. But yeah, and it's looking at areas where perhaps, for example, maybe I didn't feel as though I had a voice when I was younger, although I was encouraged to be confident and I was encouraged to perform and I was encouraged to go out and talk to people. Yet in the home, I felt like I was silenced quite a lot and told to be quiet and not ask so many questions. So I grew up with this really confusing, conflicting, is it okay to say something? Should I say something? Should I use my voice? Things like that, and exploring the world. I grew up in a very strict Indian household where I think even if I looked at a boy, my dad knew about it. Yeah. So, it's just a very, very different way of bringing my girls up. So yeah, I think just balancing is not really the right word. It is very much a blend. But I think having my own business allows me to be in charge of my own diary, my own commitments. It ebbs and flows. And there are times where my girls will absolutely need me, and that's a drop everything moment, and vice versa.
I love that so much, Meeta. Oh my God, we're out of time. I feel like there's going to be a part 2, like there is with most of my guests, because I could speak forever and so could you. So thank you so much for being here. It's been I've enjoyed this conversation so much.
I've loved it.
Where can everyone find you on socials if they want to connect with you?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Naturally Nourished with Meeta. Check me out. I tend to story quite a lot. Or if you're on LinkedIn, then you can find me at Meeta Darji. So yeah, I look forward to connecting with you all.
Thank you so much, Meeta. It's amazing to have you.
It's been great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. Your support honestly means the world to me. And I will see you here next week, same place, same time.